The trick is, I think, to have a good team around you and to feel like their capability is better than yours. If you know something needs to be done, but you know somebody in your team is handling that, that is worth a lot. Fundamentally, you cannot teach culture. You cannot teach values. People don't learn that. They're either connected to you culturally or they're not. And if they're not, that's okay. You just find somebody that is. Everyone, we've all got different values, different things that we think are important. If you look at things from your customer's point of view, you always see things differently. And so you choose the platform based on two things. One, what works for you? What can you use? And two, what's going to work for your customer and deliver that product in the best possible way.
This podcast is brought to you by Bambassadors.com, the go-to platform for e-commerce brands to create video reviews that boost social proof and sales on TikTok and beyond. Get your first video review created and posted by a genuine creator, completely free, no strings attached, and no credit card required at Bambassadors.com.
Welcome to the EcomXFactor podcast, where it's all about launching and scaling your business using sales funnels, automations, and smart marketing. And now, please welcome your host, the founder of EcomXFactor, Yaron.
Hi, Matt. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Ron. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Where are you calling from? From Liverpool?
Yeah, Liverpool in the UK, where the clouds are grey and the weather is cold. But yeah, it's a lovely part of the world.
Awesome. Are you born and raised in Liverpool?
No, I grew up a couple of hours away in a place called Derby, which if you were to put a pin right in the middle of England, it would probably hit Derby, to be fair. And then I grew up in Derby. Then I moved over to the States, lived in North Carolina for a little while, and then moved to Liverpool for university and just stayed, really. Just fell in love with the place.
Awesome. Great. And what is your professional background?
I started in e-commerce in 2002. So that was a while ago. So almost 20 years now been involved in e-commerce. I guess I've always been an entrepreneur, if I'm honest with you, Ron. I've always had that desire to run my own business. And so after a few years in industry, I decided to take the leap and became full-time doing what we do. We did e-commerce sites off and on over the years, and just had a barrel of laughs doing it. And so now, fast forward 20 years, I still run e-commerce websites, which is my main job, if you like. I love it. And like you say, on top of that, we've got the e-commerce podcasts, we do the masterminds, we do coaching, we've got agencies involved. The whole thing has grown. And my experience is, as you get good at something, people start to come and ask you how you do it. And they seek out your advice, which is always a little bit surprising, and ego stroking, which is always quite nice. And they ask you all kinds of questions about what you did and how you did it. And so, that's how the agency started. And that's how we ended up with all the things that we do now. So, love it. It's busy, but it's good.
Awesome. Great. And how do you prioritize everything? Like the stores and the agency?
It's a great question. I can't say as I've cracked it yet, if I'm honest. The trick, I think, or the secret to having a lot of things going at the same time, or a lot of plates spinning in the air, the trick is, I think, to have a good team around you and to feel like their capability is better than yours. So if you know something needs to be done, but you know somebody in your team is handling that, that is worth a lot if you can trust that person to get on with it, so you don't feel the need to interfere. And so for me, one of the key things that I guess I've done over the last few years is just build an exceptional team. And the guys that work with us are just phenomenal people, and they do a phenomenal job, hyper trustworthy. And together we sort of build all these different things, and they enable me to do things like this, like the podcast, and come onto your show, do our podcast, and all the stuff, all the shiny stuff, which is just lovely and nice. And, I get to do it because there's a team of very clever people busy working hard behind the scenes, making sure everything is still, tickety-boo.
with regards to building like the company and the culture, how would you advise people to start building a company for the long term, an e-commerce business for the long term? Because I know that a lot of beginners, they are hiring VAs, sometimes via Upwork or Fiverr, and they just give them a task, like to complete task. And there comes a point that you need to give them roles and you need to give them like to take ownership of stuff. So how would you approach this, like giving ownership instead of just handing out tasks?
That's a great question. And you're right. I mean, if you want to build a successful company for the long term, you've got to do it. I think you've got to do it where you have got a good team. I know a lot of people run their own businesses themselves and they do outsource a lot of work and they're just in the middle of it. And that for me is the same thing. They still are building a team. They're finding competent people that can help them. And for me, the answer is simple. And if you can imagine, the way I figured this out a few years ago was I drew on a piece of paper a crosshairs, if you like, a vertical line and a horizontal line to give me 4 quadrants. So you've seen these very simple drawings. They're like a plus sign. And on the vertical axis, I wrote the word competence at the top. And competence is all about skill. It's all about the ability of somebody to do a job. And so I wanted to know who was competent at what they did. Okay. And we look at this when we look at traditional things like a CV or a resume, as they call it in the States, where you want to know how skilled somebody is, right? So if we've just had some plumbing work done at our house, you want to know that plumber is skilled, right? You want to know they've got the skills to do what it is that they're supposed to be doing. But the trouble is with a lot of companies, all we look at is skill, right? So we look at somebody's competence. And if we're starting out, we're trying to find the maximum competence for the minimum price, which is, the silver bullet in everyone's head, isn't it really? So, we're trying to find the sort of maximum competence that is going on. But for me, we realized quickly that this wasn't enough. You can't just look at somebody's competence. You have to look at stuff beyond that. So one of the things that we drew on the horizontal axis was culture. And so we just wrote the word culture. And so what that gives me is 4 quadrants. Okay. So vertically, I'm measuring competence or the skill. Horizontally, I'm measuring culture or how well the values of this person align to the same values that I have. Okay. Yes. And this is super, super important. And so when you're building a team, you're looking for people who are on the right 2 sections of this quadrant. So if you can picture it in your head, you've got your upper right quadrant. So these people are highly competent, they're highly skilled, but they're also highly connected to your culture, right? To your values. These are what I call the superstars. These are the people that you definitely want to hire. They are phenomenal people. They're going to align well with your culture. They're going to be great at their job. And collectively, you're going to be able to trust each other and you are going to be able to do great things. On the bottom right quadrant, if you're still following with the drawing.
Yeah, following for sure.
You've got people who are culturally aligned. So they're high on the cultural index, right? Their values are very close to yours, but maybe their skill set is low. Okay, so their competence isn't great. So what you've got to ask yourself is, can I train these people? Can I, through education and training, bring these people out of that subset? Okay, can they become the superstars? Okay, so this is my training pool right there. And actually, if I look at a lot of my team members, a lot of people start off in that section. We're great at hiring people who are cultural fits, but weren't really there on the skill set. And over the time they've been with us, they've trained and got better so that their competence has grown. Do you see what I mean?
For sure.
So it's a bit more of a sort of medium to long-term investment in people. But that, for me, is the place where you hire. If you go to your top left quadrant, this is always a place where you get problems. Okay, so these people are very competent, very highly skilled, but culturally they are misaligned to you, right? Their values are very, very different to yours. And this is your archetypal salesperson. This is the person that just cares about the commission and doesn't care about the chaos that they create in the company when they sell something. We all know these people. And it's not very PC, but we tend to call these people organizational terrorists because they go around creating chaos and mayhem in the company. But the guy that owns the company is so scared to lose them because of their competence, because they're so good at their job. But they create this sort of cultural misalignment. And actually, I think it takes a very brave business owner to go, you know what? We're going to have to lose these people, because fundamentally you cannot teach culture. You cannot teach values. People don't learn that. They're either connected to you culturally or they're not. And if they're not, that's okay. You just find somebody that is. Everyone, we've all got different values, different things that we think are important. And so you just go and find someone that is. And you can teach skill, you can't teach culture. And I think whenever you measure these two things, skill and culture side by side, you tend to find, and it's not an exact science, don't get me wrong, but our hires have become much more successful when we've looked at these two. How
do you qualify people in order to understand if they fit the culture?
Yeah, it's a great question. So for me, that all comes down to talking to the person and understanding their values. And so if we're hiring, for example, we ask them questions like, what was the last book you read? What did you learn from that book? There's no right or wrong answer to this question, but you're going to learn very quickly what type of person you have when you talk to them. So just by asking them their values, even if you're looking on Upwork or, Fiverr or something like that, where you're starting to try and build a relationship with somebody who's a freelance, but you're wanting to maybe get them to work 10, 15 hours a week for you, you're not quite sure if it's going to work. Just get on the phone, have a conversation with them. What hobbies do you like? What books do you read? Tell me about your family. What things matter to you? What things are important? How can I help you sort of achieve those goals? And I think those conversations where there isn't necessarily a right or wrong answer, you just understand the values of that person. They're super, super important. We do that all the time. And if you read customer reviews on sites like Fiverr, you can read through that and you'll very quickly find what's important to that person by what customers have said about them, because your values always shine through. I would just do that old human thing of picking up the phone. I think that's almost become a lost art, but have a conversation and see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. I also feel the same. For a while, when I was recruiting customer support, so since they didn't do phone calls, so I said I need only to interview them texting, because it doesn't make sense, because anyway, they're not going to talk with the customer. But then I realized what you're saying is you get a lot of benefits understanding about the personality and the vibes by speaking with the person. So I make it a point to hop on a video call and speak with them for a few minutes, just understand their attitude, and also asking them a few no right and wrong questions like you're suggesting.
Yeah, just start a conversation, because I think people at interview are very good at asking or answering questions that they're expecting, right? So why should you work here? Tell me what you bring to the table. All those questions are a bit dull and boring, but people know how to answer them. We ask questions like, one of the values that we have, I had a beauty company, we've just gone and sold it. But one of the values for us when we were running that company, that online company, was fun. We wanted to have a sense of fun in what we were doing. And so whenever we would interview people to be part of the team, I would ask them this simple question. If you were going to be a superhero, what would your superpower be? It's an off-the-wall question. People are not expecting it. And it flummoxes people a little bit of the time. But that's okay, because if you haven't got the value of fun, you're going to really struggle with this question. But if you're quite, if you're a fun type person, you're going to be, I've thought about this since I was 10, and my superpower would be the power of flight or teleportation, all those kind of things. Why would it be teleportation? And it's a stupid conversation. But very quickly, I'm finding out, I'm understanding, using these kind of questions, is this guy a cultural fit? Yes or no? And that's the most important thing for me. Culture trumps skill every day. And I'd rather have someone who's a good cultural fit, but technically not as strong as a candidate who is very strong on the competence and skill, but very low on cultural fit.
I really like this question. And I also like the question about what books have you read lately? Because first of all, most of the people don't read books very often. So you immediately can understand if this person is a lifetime learner and invest time in developing himself. And also specifically you can understand what is he interested in by the books that he mentions.
Yeah. And all those kind of questions. If you can travel anywhere in the world, where would you love to go to and why? If there was one thing that you could do where you knew you would absolutely not fail, what would it be? All these kind of questions, I think, are just really fascinating questions to ask people. But like I say, it's all to figure out, are they a cultural fit with us, yes or no?
Exactly. I intended to ask this question further down the interview, but we already talked about books, and I saw that you had an interesting post in your Instagram feed about books that you highly recommend. And I knew some of the books, but 2 books really piqued my curiosity, and I haven't heard about them. So first and I wanted to know if you can elaborate like the takeaways or what you took from this book. So first of all is Church Marketing, and the other one is The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry.
Yeah, Church Marketing is a fascinating book, and I recommend anyone reads it, even if you're not involved in church, because for me, this is such a great book on marketing. I remember reading the book the first time, and I put some kind of comment on Twitter. I can't remember what I wrote on Twitter about it. And the author of the book got in touch with me, just replied to the comment, which was great. And so full disclosure, I am now very good friends with the guy that wrote the book. We've become very good friends over the years. He's come and got involved with stuff that I've been doing. I've had him work at our business. I've gone over and done some coaching with his guys. And our families have done stuff together. Anyway, he's just a wonderful person. The reason I like this book, Church Marketing 101, is the book essentially talks about what marketing is. And he talks about how marketing is the management of perception. And in that book, he talks about, how you do that and why that's important. And even simple little things matter. And, and you kind of read the book and you think, well, the reason I like to read it, because he does talk a little bit about the church, but in my head, I'm thinking, well, how does this apply for business? And it actually, you're forced to think more than you would if you just read an ordinary marketing book, if that makes sense. Because in your head, you're going, there's an element of truth here that's really going to help me. And you kind of have to grapple with it. And I really, really like that about his book. And one of the things the reason I put that book in there was because I go on a lot of podcasts, and I'm interviewed a lot, and I'm on the stage a lot, and it's great, and I love it. And one of the common questions people ask you all the time is, in effect, what is the latest marketing tactic that I can use, which is going to grow my business, right? They're looking for that latest thing in marketing. And I'm like, well, we could talk about that. And I genuinely don't mind. And people like that because it's sexy, it's new, and it's the shiny object in the room, right? And people love that sort of thing. But I think a much more important question to answer before you get onto what are the latest tactics is, have you got the fundamental principles of marketing down in your business, yes or no? And this book, in effect, talks about those fundamental principles. He doesn't mention digital marketing in there. He doesn't really mention e-commerce in there. He talks about the basic principles of marketing. And for me, they're the fundamentals you've got to get right in your business before you do the tactics. Otherwise, you're not going to have a business in 18 months' time. So, that's why I'd recommend Richard's book. It's such a great book.
Can you give like an example of a principle that he talks about in the church, and how, after thinking about this, you were able to implement something similar in your e-commerce business?
Yeah, he has this thing. I'll give Rich the credit. I don't know. I need to ask him actually if he originated this story. I've stolen one of his stories and I use it a lot. And it's called toilet seat. I call it toilet seat thinking, okay, which sounds a bit odd. And Rich told the story, and I'll never forget it. He told the story of how he used to work cleaning toilets, toilet stalls, and I think it was in a hotel. Every month, he would win the award for the cleanest toilets. Customers were, they hit the smiley face whenever they come out. And whoever got the most smiley faces, the most customer satisfaction, won something at the end of the month. And Rich always won this award, okay? And all these fellow employees, they tried to clean harder. They're like, I want to try and win the award. But after a while, they're like, what is it? What is it that you're doing that I am not doing that's helping you win this award? What am I not seeing here? And so his compadres were a little bit envious. And so they asked him, why did he always win? And so Rich was like, I tell you what, just do me a favor, show me how you clean the toilet. And so they'd go into a toilet store and they'd show how they scrubbed and cleaned the toilet, and they would stand there and they'd clean the walls and they'd clean the toilet seats and all that sort of stuff. And Rich said, well, I'll show you how I do it. And there's one key difference between what you're doing and what I'm doing. And this is why I think I always win. And they said, what's that? He said, I simply do this. And Rich, instead of looking at the toilet and cleaning it, turn around and he sat on the toilet and he cleans the toilet from that position. And he said, I clean it from this position because this is how the customer always looks at this toilet.
It's amazing.
And so, yeah, it was just a simple analogy that he used. So I've totally stolen this, and I call it toilet seat thinking. And in fact, you can't see it, Ron, but down the side of my desk, I actually have a toilet seat, which I use in video conferences. I just pull it out and I show people the toilet seat. I did some work with a medical group. And we talked about toilet seating. I've actually sent toilet seats to, because we've all been doing online virtual summits, haven't we, and all that sort of stuff. With a group of people we were talking to, sent them all a toilet seat and said, listen, do me a favor, sit on that. And I made them put the toilet seat on the chair. And it's like, right, sit on the toilet seat. And this was all metaphorical. You sit on the toilet seat and you think about it from your customer's point of view. And this was all the management of perception, right? If you look at things from your customer's point of view, you always see things differently. And so, yeah, that was the story. And that's why I tell people to sit on a toilet seat, just because it helps them think of things from their customer's point of view.
Quick favor, guys. If you enjoy these shows and have been a listener for quite some time now, we would really, really appreciate it if you could take the time to give us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or whatever your preferred podcast app may be. Having lots of ratings and audience feedback makes our show become more visible across multiple platforms. And it also supports our mission of helping as many people as possible to become better marketers and better entrepreneurs. So if you're not driving and it wouldn't be dangerous, pause this thing right now and give us an honest review over your podcast app. And we will love you even more than we already do. Thank you for taking the time, and I hope you enjoyed the show. We intended also to talk about customer centricity, but I think that you've proved how with storytelling, you can talk about a concept and really nail the message using just a great story. So I don't feel the need to elaborate about customer centricity anymore after thinking about this story.
Now, all you've got to do is just go down the local hardware store, buy a toilet seat, and then just once a week or once every couple of weeks, it's a really stupid thing to do. Just put the toilet seat on your chair, sit on the toilet seat. People will think you're nuts. And then just for half an hour, just think of your business from your customer's point of view, and you'll be amazed at what you figure out.
Amazing. I wrote it down, and I'm going to do this for sure. And I know you also have the best
$30 you've spent. That's for sure.
For sure. Here it's going to be even cheaper in Thailand. I think it's cheaper.
Okay. Yeah.
I know you also have like the Jersey framework, which you use very often. Can you elaborate about the Jersey framework?
Yeah, of course. The framework was something that we've developed over the years. We looked at our business, our online businesses, and we were like, what's making our businesses work? Especially when you do the coaching and the consulting and the mastermind and all these things. I think it's, a lot of people do it, don't they? You're like, this business is good. I need to replicate it. What's the framework? I'm doing coaching. I'm doing consulting. I definitely need a framework that I can, in effect, help people learn with. And so over the years, we understood the Jersey framework. And Jersey, because it was named after one of the companies that we owned at the time, it's a 6-part framework that, in effect, talks about the 6 key elements of e-commerce that you need to think about and focus on. And so we took those 6 elements, although it's technically 7 because the first element is 2 things. We called it, the J from Jersey was jam jar. So this for me was about 2 things. It was about product and it was about brand. So when you think about an e-commerce business, before you even start with a website, before you start on a marketing strategy, you have to think about product and you have to think about brand. Even if you are just a solo entrepreneur or a mompreneur or someone who's wanted to do a side hustle, you still have to think about brand, not necessarily colors and logos, but more who is the customer that I'm aiming at? What's the story? Who am I attracting here? When I sit on the toilet seat, who am I thinking about, right? So who's my customer? And the second thing is, what product am I going to sell them? And for me, I get questions all the time. people have gone to sites like Alibaba or any of the kind of drop shipping agencies. They've thrown a few products on their website and they're like, I'm not selling anything. I've run a few Facebook ads to the web. I've spent $400, trying to get traffic to the website, but I've not made a single sale. Why is that? And it comes down predominantly, I would say most of the time, it comes down to the product. You've got a product that people fundamentally don't want to buy. So if you are going out into e-commerce, if you're doing drop shipping, whatever it is, you've got to understand the brands, the story, the customer. You've got to understand the product that you're selling, and you've got to find a product that people actually want to buy. And this is super important, you've got to find a product that you really want to sell. Mm-hmm. So there's no point in me getting all excited about selling golfing equipment online. There's a high demand for that product, which is great, but I know absolutely nothing about golf. I could care less, right? So I'm not disrespecting golf. It's just something that I've never got into. And so if I ever create a golf website, it is going to be dull and dreary and boring because there's going to be no passion in it. There's going to be no knowledge. I'm just going to have copied information and data from other websites and put it onto ours. And in effect, I'm selling a commodity rather than something that I'm passionate about. Do you see what I mean? There's a big difference. Sure. Mm-hmm. And I think this is where most people fail. So I could go to Alibaba. I could go find some cheap sunglasses, for like $2 on a drop shipping thing. And I'll put them on my website. I don't care about them. I'm just going to copy the images. I'm going to copy the text. I'm going to put it on a Shopify site. And I'm going to put them on there for $25. Run Facebook ads to them because, I read somewhere someone did this really successfully. But 99 times out of 100, lo and behold, it doesn't work. You've wasted all that money. You've wasted all that time because there's 50,000 websites out there all doing exactly the same as you. And the customer, if they do come to your website, they're asleep before they even look at the product because it's just dull. It's just dull and boring. And so for me, this was always the first part. And this was critical when I'm thinking about my own e-commerce businesses. This is critical when I'm coaching. You always start with brand and product. And so that was the J, the jam jar. Mm-hmm. We then went into the E of the Jersey framework, and E was all about engineering. So once I've got my brand proposition in place, once I've got my product idea in place, I can then think about the website. And I can think about my technology stack that I need to use to get the job done. And again, this is where you need to think about your customer. People say to me all the time, what should I use? Should I use Shopify? Should I use Squarespace? Should I use WooCommerce? Should I use Magento? What platform should I use? And the question is, well, hang on, what technology stack do you need to sell that product to that customer, right? Mm-hmm. And this is why it's so important. Everything builds off the customer and the product. So if you're selling digital products, for example, well, Shopify is probably not going to help you. So don't even think about setting up a Shopify site. Do you see what I mean? So we can then look at the right platform to deliver that product to that customer. And so you choose the platform based on two things. One, what works for you? What can you use? And two, what's going to work for your customer and deliver that product in the best possible way. You've got to remember that customer has got to have a phenomenal experience on your website. And the technology stack you use has got to be able to work with that. And that technology stack is your website, it's your email marketing, it's your social media, it's all of that sort of stuff, Mm-hmm. And so once you figure out the brand, once you figure out the product, focus on your tech stack. So once you've gone from J, the jam jar, we've got E, engineering. R was all about resonate. So this for me was when I'm building my website, I have to think again, not about what I like, not about the colors that I like. I might like the image over here. I might like a button there, but my customers aren't buying. So, but maybe my customers prefer the button in a slightly different place, or the navigation needs to reach slightly differently. And, so I have to build this website in a way that's going to convert with my customers. And that means I have to put aside my personal preferences and my personal desires. I have to make it work for the customer. Does that make sense?
For sure.
So for the first few years of Jersey, I actually designed all of our websites. I personally did all the design work. That's how I started out, was, with sort of doing website design. But it didn't take a genius to figure out that I shouldn't be doing that because 95% of our customers were female. And, without stating the blindingly obvious, I'm not, right? So we went to an agency and we had them. In fact, it was Rich, the guy that wrote Church Marketing. We went to his agency because he had some really great female designers working for him. And we said, Rich, what would this site look like if it was designed by main customer, which is women who enjoy beauty products? And he's like, well, I've got a room full of those. Let me ask them. And they came up with a design that was so different to what we'd had before. And guess what? When we implemented it, guess what happened to our conversion rate? It went up, right? Because we were now starting to think in a way that resonates. For me, that's such a critical thing, Yeah. We had one guy who came to me and said, I've got $100,000 I want to spend on marketing to try and drum up, sales. I want to double our website. So I'm going to double our ad budget. I'm going to spend $100,000 on marketing. What do you think? And I was like, well, listen, give me a day. Let me have a look and see what comes out of it. And we went on his website and we did some analysis. And I was like, I reckon if you took that $100,000 marketing budget and spent most of it on improving optimization of your website, you would more than double your sales. You're putting your money in the wrong place. And this is what I mean. He'd not thought about how to get his website to resonate with his customers. He, like everybody else, just assumed if I send more people to my website, I'm going to get more sales. It's not smart thinking at all. So I think you've got to do that. So that's the J, the E, and the R. Then we move on to the S, which we called send, which actually is about traffic and getting traffic to your website. Nice. How do I send people to my website? But notice, I've done 3 other things before I've even started to improve my marketing, right? But here in this whole area, you've got to think about key different digital marketing pillars, right? You've got to think about email first and foremost. I'm always amazed by how many people out there still don't have email marketing programs set up. I'm just amazed. And I reckon, depending on the industry, obviously, and the usual caveats, most people are going to get like a 30% uplift, 20-30% uplift with a good email marketing strategy. So you think about the guy that wanted to spend $100,000 on marketing, but didn't have an email marketing strategy. Do you see what I mean? It's like, well, hang on, we can add 30% just by spending a few quid on an email marketing strategy. So you've got to get your email marketing sorted out. Obviously, there's things like social media, paid media, which we should think about, mobile marketing. There's whether you do things like traditional forms of marketing, like TV or billboards or all that sort of stuff. But you've got to think about your marketing. And here's the thing, you can do that without spending any money. It doesn't have to cost a lot. The way that we built a beauty brand. I did it as an experiment. It's like, could I sell these beauty products that we had without actually spending a fortune on marketing? Yes or no? So what we did was we just simply went onto Twitter. This was a few years ago before Instagram and was really a big deal. We just went onto Twitter and we did a search term. And so we were like, anybody that comes up with, I don't know, the phrase, my skin, dry skin. And so it would flag and people would just go, oh, it's amazing what people would write on Twitter. Oh, my skin's feeling a bit dry today. Do you know what I mean? And so all we would do was we would then contact those people on Twitter and say, oh man alive, sorry to hear you've got dry skin. I've had that same problem. Listen, we've got a great product over here. We have a sample pack, which is normally $9.99. I will send it to you free of charge if you cover postage. Would love to know what you think, because I think it's really going to help you. Check it out. Let me know. And you'll be amazed. A lot of people are like, okay, cool. We're just going to go have a look. And yeah, that's how we started to build a beauty brand. Just
how did you scale this? People. I mean, how many workers did this?
We had 2 people full-time on Twitter. Again, this is something that you could outsource if you've got someone with the right value set and the right skill set. And that's what we did. And so we grew it organically. There was no big fanfare, no big anything. And that, I mean, don't get me wrong, that worked a few years ago. Would it still work today? I don't know. I've not tried it the last few years, but I think it's one of those, the point I'm trying to make here is there are ways to be creative with your marketing that cost little or no money. You don't always have to go straight for, I now need to spend 1,500 quid a month on Facebook ads. Do you know what I mean? You can go there and that's good.
Do you have any other like original examples that come to mind? Because now everybody is suffering from the Facebook change of the algorithm change with the iOS. And I'm sure that a lot of people are seeking new channels. So you mentioned like traditional marketing and this hack. So do you have any other examples that come to mind?
Yeah, I think, again, depends on your business. So if you think about the pandemic, and certainly here in the UK, I was deeply concerned for local businesses, sort of small shops on the high street. We call them the corner shop. So it's in the UK. So you've got these guys who are in effect very small independent grocery stores, and they sell a few bits and bobs in there, and they're great for the community. And I really value what they do. Or you had a local restaurant or something like that. What could they do as a result of the lockdown? And one of the things that I thought was fascinating was there were those stores that just closed their doors, and there were those stores that kind of pivoted and made some big changes. And actually now we're doing really well as a result. But again, what they did simply, so they've got their product, right? They know people want to buy their product. They've got a customer base. So they put their products online. But they did two things. They said, listen, we can offer a click and collect service between 3 and 4. Just come knock on the door and we'll give you your parcel. But also between the hours of 4 and 5, we will do local delivery, right? And if you live within 3/4 of a mile or a kilometer from this store, we'll deliver your products for you free of charge as long as you spend over $20, right? This is what started to happen. And the way the local stores, how did they get their customers? Well, there's no point in doing a big Facebook ad campaign because they were quite hyper-targeted local businesses. So it was just simple things like putting a poster in the window and then just spending a couple of days walking around the neighborhood, putting flyers through the door. Think about it this way. Who is your customer, right? Where are they? Where do they hang out the most? Okay. Do they hang out on Twitter? Do they hang out on Instagram? Are they a local area? What ways can I reach them that is quick and easy, that maybe other people aren't doing, that would work to resonate with that customer, right? For me, one of the most overlooked forms of marketing is referral marketing. So, you've had a customer, if you've treated that customer right and they've had a good experience because you've got a great product, you've got a great customer service thing going on, enable them to tell their friends. It's the best form of marketing ever, So referral marketing is so essential. Again, that was something that we learned from Church Marketing 101. People will happily tell other people about their experience if it is a good experience, and if it's not, then they'll just moan about it, or they complain about it, or they'll keep quiet. And so there are so many ways you can be creative, Ron, with the whole marketing thing. I don't know if that's helpful or answer.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, at the end of the day, you need to keep on innovating, and there's no one size fits all, and you need to understand your audience and where are they hanging out, as you said. So for sure, it answers the questions. Should we move on to E, which is the next letter in the jersey?
Sure, that is experience. So we've touched on that briefly with the toilet seat thinking. You've got to think about the customer experience. Now, the way to think about this is when someone's on your website, you've found the traffic. There's a website which resonates. They found a product they really want to buy. They're connecting with your brand and values. So they've hit the buy now button. And let me tell you, as an e-commerce entrepreneur, your job is not done. It is only just started, right? And the thing to remember is everything to that point has been a digital interaction, okay? So what's going to happen now is the digital is going to move into the physical. When the customer receives their parcel from you, assuming you're selling a physical product, when they get that is the first time they have touched anything physical with their interaction with you. Right. And if you think about how most companies treat that physical interaction, or let me put it another way, maybe Ron, I'll ask you the question. When was the last time you received a parcel and went, wow, even before you opened it?
I think it was the ClickFunnels book, like a few years ago, by Russell Brunson.
Okay. Why did you go wow?
Because he did like smart stuff. One of the things, and the envelope had a huge stop sign, and he said, before you open this, make sure to upload an image with the book as soon as you start reading, as soon as you open the parcel. And he also had like a giveaway, like a small USB, few like magazines that I didn't know that will arrive. So he over-delivered.
So the experience when you received that parcel was good.
Yeah, for sure.
What's interesting to your answer is you received that a few years ago. Now, I can guess, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, that in the last few years, you have received other parcels from e-commerce companies that you've ordered from. Would that be a correct statement?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But you didn't mention a single one of them. It just all blurs into brown, beige boxes. Do you know what I mean? That just don't, you're excited about getting what's in the box, but you're never excited about the box itself. And we at Jersey, we made a big change. We're like, you know what? I wanted to stop sending stuff in brown boxes with the usual plastic bubbles in the bag. I'm like, that's not us. That's not fun. It's not environmental. It's not sustainable. What can we do that meets our values, that gives a great customer experience? So we simply did a number of things. We printed some messages on the box, just like Russell Brunson did with your ClickFunnels book. But inside the box, we stopped using plastic bubbles and we used popcorn. And we literally had popcorn machines in the warehouse churning out popcorn by the bucket load.
That's amazing.
And popcorn was light. It still is light. It's biodegradable and it's just fun and it's different. And so when customers received the parcel and they opened it, they started to take photographs of the box and share it on social media. We started to get emails from customers who talked about the packaging in a good way. Like that had never happened to us before. Do you know what I mean? And it was one of those things, just a simple thing, changing the customer experience made a massive difference. So our customer loyalty shot through the roof. Why? Because we used popcorn instead of plastic bubbles. It was an incredible story. It highlights to me the power of just thinking this through slightly. So, you know, for the listeners out there, don't be one of the companies which has sent stuff to Ron over the last 2 years that's just not stood out in his mind. Be the ClickFunnels guy, be Russell Brunson. Think about your customer. What is it they want that's going to really, when they get that parcel, before they open it, they're excited. They're already going, wow, you know. I think that's so important. And then finally, in the framework, we talk about yo-yo, which is you've got to build systems that are repeatable and referable so that this can't be just a one-off. You've done all this hard work. You've got the customer. They've bought the product. They've been amazed when they've received it and they've put photographs of it all over social media. But you don't want customers that do that just one time. You want them to do it time and time and time and time again. So find ways to build repeatability in what you do. And they are still the 6 or 7, I suppose, elements of e-commerce that we really encourage people to use. And if you follow that framework through for your business and work through it, it will really help you massively grow online. We've used it in all our businesses, and I've used it with companies all over the world. It's what we use on our coaching. It totally transforms your e-commerce business, that's for sure.
Amazing. This is a great framework. And I love what you did with the popcorn. I actually interviewed a week ago, Chloe Thomas, and she mentioned...
Oh, Chloe is lovely.
Yeah. And she mentioned this example of the popcorn, and I didn't know it was your company. But you mentioned the example of the popcorn, and I was amazed back then. So this is now why I'm not sounding as amazed as I was back then. But I've been thinking about this the whole week, and I've also told a few friends of mine, which are also e-commerce entrepreneurs, about this popcorn idea. So it's funny that we're closing a circle, and it was actually one of your brands.
Yeah. And Chloe's a friend of mine as well. She's lovely. It was great. She was on your show.
Yeah, awesome. Cool. Wow, we covered a lot. I feel like this framework is like a great tool for people to use when they are planning the e-commerce business and also when they are revisiting and optimizing their business. So I love this framework. Is there anything else that we didn't cover or that you would like to mention to the audience?
There's 10,000 things, obviously, that we've not covered, Ron. But I think now in terms of the framework, it's straightforward. I think e-commerce works when you keep it simple, when you put your customer first in your thinking, but not in a way that is obviously detrimental to your business. You need to sort of balance both. And don't underestimate the power behind brand and product right at the start of the framework. You know, too many people jump straight in. they'll go to Shopify, they'll sign up without even having a product to sell. Mm-hmm. And I think invest time and energy in understanding the products that you can sell at the start, and you will do so much better later down the line. Honestly, it's for me, it's the key to e-commerce.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Where can people find more about you and connect?
Yeah, definitely check out the podcast. In fact, if you want to know more about the podcast, just go to ecommercepodcast.net. You'll find all the latest episodes there. But if you want to reach out to me and connect, I would love to hear from anybody, Eleanor. I'll try and happily answer anyone's questions if I can. Just reach out to me at my website, mattedmundson.com, and you'll find all my social media links on there. And if you want to reach out on Instagram, LinkedIn, all of that sort of stuff is on the website. So just go to mattedmundson.com. If you just Google Matt Edmundson e-commerce, it should come up. But it'd be great to meet you.
Cool. Awesome. Great. And obviously we'll share all the links in the show notes so people will find it easily.
Absolutely. It's good that you've got show notes. Show notes are so important.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much, Matt. Have a nice day.
Wonderful. Thanks, Ron. Appreciate it.
Hi guys, this is Yaron again. Just a few more things before you take off. Number one, if you want to learn more about e-commerce and marketing, make sure you check out our YouTube channel, which is called EcomXFactor Official. Number two, check out our Facebook group, which is called EcomXFactor Marketing and E-commerce Mastermind. This is a great place to ask questions and connect with other business owners. And last but not least, if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to share it with your friends and colleagues, plus leave a review at your favorite podcast app.